Hello, and welcome back to today's Reddit stories. If you like this content and would like to see more, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Without further ado, let's get into the first story. Story 1. AITA for refusing to change my group project after my classmate ignored all the deadlines. Throwaway because some people in my class use Reddit. I, in 16M, am in a science class where we were assigned a group project worth a big chunk of our grade. There are 4 of us. Me, Alex, 16M, Bry, 15F, and Sam, 16F. We had 3 weeks to work on it and were supposed to split the work evenly. In the first meeting we agreed, I'd make the slides, Bry would do the research, Sam would write the explanation, Alex would handle the visuals and graphs. We also agreed on clear deadlines so we could review everything before turning it in. Well, Alex basically vanished. He didn't show up to meetings, didn't respond to messages, and when he did reply, it was stuff like, "I'll do it later," or "I've been busy." Meanwhile, the rest of us kept working. After the second missed deadline, Sam and I reminded him, politely. No change. 2 days before the project was due, Alex suddenly sent a message saying he'd finished everything and wanted us to redo the slides to match his vision. He sent over graphs that didn't match our data and designs that didn't follow the assignment instructions. I told him we couldn't redo the whole project that late, especially since the rest of us had already coordinated our parts. I said we could add his visuals if they fit, but we weren't starting over. Alex got mad and said we were excluding him, and that it wasn't fair because he worked really hard at the end. Bree backed me up and Sam stayed quiet but didn't disagree. Now Alex is telling people in class that we pushed him out of the project and that we're the reason he might get a bad grade. A few classmates said we should have just adjusted to keep the peace. I feel bad that he's stressed, but I also feel like we gave him plenty of chances. So, AITA, for refusing to change the project at the last minute? Edit. To clarify, we did put his name on the project and included one of his graphs that actually fit the data. Top comments, NTA. Deadlines exist for a reason. He didn't work really hard at the end, he procrastinated, and expected everyone else to scramble for him. You even included part of his work in his name. That's more generous than most groups would be. Classic group project problem. You communicated, set deadlines, followed up, and documented everything. He ignored all of that. You didn't exclude him, he excluded himself. Actions have consequences. Soft ESH. Alex obviously dropped the ball. But maybe you could have tried harder to integrate his work, so there'd be less conflict. That said, he's still way more at fault for ghosting the group. Story 2. AITA for refusing to apologize to my cousin after she took over my birthday party. Throwaway because my family is very online, and I don't want this tied to my main. I, 17F, recently had my birthday, which normally isn't a huge deal in my family. We usually do something small, cake, dinner, maybe a few friends. This year was different because it was my last birthday before graduating, and my parents told me I could plan it myself within reason. I decided on a small backyard party, about 10 friends, board games, music, and a movie later. Nothing wild, just something mine. I spent weeks planning it. I made a playlist, picked decorations, and even baked cupcakes myself because I like baking and wanted to try a new recipe. Here's where my cousin comes in. My cousin Lena, 16F, is very close in age to me, and our families are close. She's also a lot. She's louder, more outgoing, and very used to being the center of attention. She's not a bad person, but everything tends to orbit around her. About 2 weeks before my party, my aunt asked if Lena could come. I said yes, obviously, because she's family. Then my aunt casually mentioned that Lena had been going through a lot because her friends were being weird, and it would be nice if my party could cheer her up. I didn't think much of that at the time. A few days later, Lena texted me asking what the theme of my party was. I told her there wasn't really a theme, just chill vibes. She responded with a bunch of ideas anyway, color schemes, TikTok games, a different playlist, and even suggested inviting her friends because they're really fun and it'll make it more exciting. I politely said no. I told her I wanted to keep it small and with people I knew well. She replied, "LOL, okay," and I thought that was the end of it. It was not. On the day of the party, Lena arrived 2 hours early with my aunt. She brought a speaker, even though I already had one set up, a bag of decorations that didn't match anything I'd planned, and somehow, 3 of her friends, none of whom I had invited or even met before. Before I could say anything, my aunt said, "Surprise! We thought it'd be more fun with more people." I was already stressed, but I didn't want to cause a scene, so I tried to roll with it. That was my first mistake. Once more, people arrived. Lena basically took over. She changed the music without asking, rearranged the seating so her friends could sit together, and kept suggesting games she liked, even when my friends clearly weren't into it. At one point, she brought out the cupcakes I baked and started handing them out, telling everyone how she helped make them. She did not. The breaking point came when it was time to watch the movie I had picked. Lena loudly said it was boring, and convinced enough people to switch it to something else that my choice got dropped. I ended up sitting there watching a movie I didn't like, at my own birthday, while Lena and her friends laughed and quoted it. I didn't cry or yell, but I did get quiet. After the party ended, my parents asked if I had fun. I said honestly, not really, it didn't feel like my party. I wasn't trying to start drama, I was just tired. Apparently, that got back to my aunt and Lena. The next day, Lena sent me a long message saying she felt attacked and unappreciated, that she was just trying to help, and that it hurt her feelings that I didn't thank her for making the party better. I replied that I was glad she wanted to help, but it wasn't her party, and I felt like my plans and boundaries were ignored. She responded with, "Wow, I guess I won't try to be nice anymore." Now my aunt is involved. She says I should apologize to Lena to keep the peace, that birthdays aren't that serious, and that Lena was just being enthusiastic. A few family members agree and say I'm being dramatic. My parents are on my side, but also suggested that apologizing might make things easier long term. I don't think I should have to apologize for being upset that my own birthday got hijacked, but I also don't want to cause a permanent rift in the family. So, AITA for refusing to apologize. Edit. To answer some questions. Yes, I did try to redirect things during the party, but I didn't want to make it awkward in front of everyone. No, Lena never asked before bringing her friends. I did thank everyone for coming, including Lena. I just didn't give her special credit for the party. Top comments. NTA. This wasn't enthusiasm, it was boundary stomping. She brought uninvited guests, changed the plans, took credit for your work, and overrode your choices. That's not helping, that's hijacking. You're not required to apologize for having feelings about your own birthday. Birthdays aren't that serious is always said by the person who didn't have their birthday ruined. You planned something meaningful and it got taken over. You handled it with way more grace than most 17-year-olds would have. Lena obviously went too far, but you should have spoken up in the moment instead of letting resentment build. Communication goes both ways.
So a lot happened. After reading comments and thinking it over, I decided not to apologize for being upset. But I did send Lena a message explaining myself calmly. I said I wasn't mad at her as a person, but I felt overshadowed and wished she had asked before making changes. She didn't reply for 2 days. Then she sent back a shorter message saying she didn't realize how much it bothered me and admitted she might have gone overboard. No apology, but also no accusation. My aunt is still cold to me, but things aren't explosive anymore. My parents told me they're proud of me for standing up for myself without being cruel. I still wish my birthday had gone differently, but I also learned that being quiet to keep the peace sometimes just means you lose out.
Story 3. AITA for ruining my sister's senior year by refusing to lie for her. Throwaway because some of my friends know my main, and this involves my family. I, 16F, have an older sister, Maya, 18F. She's a senior in high school and I'm a junior. Growing up, we've always been compared. She's outgoing, confident, and good at talking her way into and out of things. I'm quieter, more academic, and honestly not great at confrontation. This story needs background, so bear with me. Maya has always been the golden child. Teachers love her. Parents praise her. Relatives brag about her. She's not mean exactly, but she's very used to things going her way. If something goes wrong, it's usually because someone else misunderstood or overreacted. I've learned over time that the easiest way to survive is to stay out of her way. This year, Maya was elected student council president. It's a big deal at our school. Speeches, events, coordinating with administration, the whole thing. It also looks great on college applications, which she reminds everyone of constantly. I'm not on student council, but I am in yearbook and the school volunteer committee, which means I help with documentation and community events. That becomes important later. At the beginning of the year, Maya was super motivated. She had ideas, talked about making changes, and promised transparency. People were excited. Then, about 2 months in, things started slipping. Meetings were canceled last minute. Emails didn't get sent. Deadlines were missed. Other council members started quietly doing her work to keep things from falling apart.
At home, she complained constantly about how no one helps and how everyone expects too much from her. My parents nodded sympathetically. I didn't say anything.
The real problem started with Charity Week. Charity Week is one of the biggest events our school runs. It raises money for a local organization and involves assemblies, fundraisers, and a final presentation showing where the money goes. Maya was in charge overall. I was assigned, through my volunteer committee, to help log hours, take photos, and submit documentation to the school district. Basically, I handled the paper trail. 3 weeks before Charity Week, Maya asked me to help her out. She wanted me to log some planning hours for her that she definitely did, but forgot to write down. I hesitated, because the hours are audited. She rolled her eyes and said, "It's not a big deal. I was literally planning this in my head." I said no. She laughed like I was joking and changed the subject. A few days later, she asked again. This time, she was more annoyed. She said everyone exaggerates hours and that I was being weirdly moral about it. I still said no. She got cold after that. As Charity Week approached, things became chaotic. Council members were scrambling. A teacher advisor stepped in. Emails went out late. One fundraiser didn't happen at all because paperwork wasn't submitted in time.
The night before the big assembly, Maya was panicking. She came into my room, sat on my bed, and told me she needed a favor. She wanted me to backdate a document to make it look like she submitted it earlier, add her name to volunteer sign-ins she hadn't attended, confirm, if asked, that she'd been present at planning meetings she missed.
I said no, not gently, not quietly. I said, "I'm not lying for you."
She stared at me like I'd slapped her. She told me I was being selfish, that I didn't understand how much pressure she was under, and that if this went wrong, it could mess up her entire future. She said I was her sister and I was supposed to support her. I told her support doesn't mean lying. She left my room crying.
The next day, the assembly happened. It was fine. Not great, not terrible. The numbers raised were lower than usual. Teachers noticed. Students noticed. A week later, the administration launched a review. Nothing dramatic, just questions about planning, documentation, and accountability. Because I was involved in the paperwork, I was interviewed. I told the truth. I didn't volunteer information about my sister. I didn't accuse her. I just answered questions honestly and provided the documents I had. When they asked if Maya had attended certain meetings, I said, "I don't believe so, based on the sign-ins." That was it. 2 days later, Maya was removed as student council president. She wasn't expelled. She wasn't suspended. She didn't lose college opportunities. She was reassigned to a general counsel role, and someone else took over leadership.
At home, all hell broke loose. Maya screamed at me. She said I betrayed her, that I was jealous, that I'd been waiting for her to fail. She said everyone knew I was involved, and that I'd embarrassed her publicly.
My aunt called my parents and said I was vindictive. My grandparents said family should come first.
My parents are conflicted. They say I technically did the right thing, but they wish I'd handled it privately or covered for her just this once. Maya hasn't spoken to me in weeks. She ignores me at school. People who used to be friendly are distant. I've heard whispers that I snitched. I feel awful, but also, I don't think I'm wrong. I didn't lie. I didn't accuse. I didn't sabotage. I just didn't protect her from the consequences of her own actions. Still, I can't help wondering if I should have stayed quiet for the sake of peace. So, AITA, edit. Some clarifications based on early messages. No, I was not asked to lie by the administration. Maya wanted me to preemptively falsify records. Yes, the school already had concerns before talking to me. I did not know removal was on the table. Edit 2. A lot of people are asking why Maya asked me specifically. I think it's because I'm usually the one who stays quiet and helps clean things up.
Comments. NTA. You didn't ruin her senior year. She did that herself by asking you to commit fraud. This wasn't borrowing a sweater or covering for being late. This was falsifying official school records. The fact that she even asked you shows how normalized this behavior was for her. The moment someone asks you to lie on audited documents, it stops being a family issue and becomes an ethics issue. You protected yourself as much as the school. If this ever came up later, you could have been punished too. I'm stuck on the parents saying just this once. That's how people end up with a lifetime of cleaning up someone else's messes. Good on you for breaking the cycle early.
If you liked today's stories and would like to see more, don't forget to press the like and subscribe buttons.